Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of PSB or Pit Stop Banter with myself, Alex, and my good partner, Josh. I did point in the right direction this time.
He did. He's learned.
Josh is over there, and we are just going to talk about a very important topic as we head into the Monza weekend. Now, obviously, Monza, the home of Ferrari, the home of the Tifosi.
Yes.
And Josh, a big Ferrari fan, but unfortunately,
Huge.
at the moment, it looks like all the attention is faced on another man. And there he is on screen right now. And as you can see by the amount of fingers he's holding up 9.
He's not very
Now,
good at
Josh,
counting if he wants to go for 10 wins in a row, is he?
No.
He should be
not at
saying he
all.
wants to go for 10 instead of I'm happy with 9. But,
Yes.
as you mentioned, he's arguably one of the most on-form drivers in the entire history of Formula 1. And that's not something I say lightly, being a Schumacher fanboy. But you do have to sit and appreciate that we are witnessing this moment. 10 years after Seb showed his utterly display of dominance, and the question started to arise that Seb might be able to, outdo Schumacher in career longevity and titles and wins. The same sort of questions are being thrown at Max at the minute. And Max recently came out in an interview and said that he feels like 28 is too young to retire.
Well, he said 31 in an interview today. He said, I want to be doing other things by the time I'm 31.
And if it's between 28 and 31, he's still got a couple more years in him, to say the least. But let's get back to the topic at hand. He's going for 10, around Monza, in front of a Tifosi. Red Bull's kind of had Monza as a bogey track for the last couple of seasons, but I don't feel like it's going to be that way for much longer, especially considering their car in the DRS.
Yeah, straight line speed was always an issue for Red Bull before they swapped to Honda power units, and now Red Bull powertrains, which is what they are called now.
No, it's Red Bull Honda powertrains, because they still want to put Honda in there to get the bonus points.
To get the bonus money. But yeah, so Max going for number 10. Obviously, as you said, Seb got 9 in a row, but Seb's last victory, which made it 9 in a row, was the final race of a season in Brazil. Max's could be 10th win in a row is midway through the 2023 season. There's still quite a few rounds left, and I don't see anyone but Max winning every round from here to the end of the season. Unless there is a mechanical DNF or a surprise result.
I mean, we talked to Daniel Gilligan, a great commentator, great caster. He works in the McLaren factory. He does tours. We talked to him after an episode of the Creator Series where we was out of it, and we had a very probably unhealthily long conversation until like 4 o'clock in the morning with him, because we were just pestering him with questions. And this question arose, and all of us at the time, this was about a month and a half ago, all of us decided that no, Max won't beat Seb's record. They're going to have a mechanical failure somewhere. It's not going to last the entire season. Another constructor's going to win. But just after a month later, he's tied with Seb. Later today is qualifying. And can anyone compete against him? Realistically, I think Perez might be the only one in a car able to do so. But Red Bull wouldn't let Perez win.
No, realistically, the people that can beat him, Perez has the car to do so on paper.
Ferrari, if we have a miracle as well.
Ferrari, if there's a miracle. I think in terms of drivers that could beat Max, there's only 2, arguably, and that's at a minimum, and it's Fernando and Lewis, but they again need a miracle really to do so. I just think Max is going to drive off into the distance, and unless his car blows up, I can't see him not winning 10 in a row.
I feel like even saying that Fernando and Lewis would be able to mount some sort of challenge, realistically, I can't see it happening. I feel like if you put Max in any car on that grid, he'll be I don't know how to say this. In Verstappen's Formula 1 league, let's say.
I think it's Verstappen league and then it's F1 underneath it at the moment. That's what it is right now.
I mean, he's recently hit back at some of the pundits saying that the Red Bull's tailored towards him. Quoted saying, Let me just get it up so I'm not mistaken
You
here.
got the quote.
I do have the quote. I just
don't
tell
want to
them to
misquote
make... no, that's the last thing you want to do. I just tell them to make the car fast, and I drive it. I don't ask them to add more front for me, despite the fact I would like it. I tell them to make it fast, and I adapt my driving style. It's not my fault if they can't. I feel like he's very much not happy that this narrative of it's all the car, it's all for Max is going around. When realistically, he's shown throughout his career that even when the car would have been tailored to Daniel, he was still able to race it. And although it might be slightly hindered towards Max, and they're just making it as fast as possible, which might make it a little difficult to drive for Checo Perez, Max hasn't shown a single bit of that difficulty. He's shown that the tyres struggle to get warmed up sometimes, but other than that, in race pace, it's rapid. In qualifying, when it's in the window, when the tyres are in their operating window, it's rapid.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
you've got the best pit crew on the grid as well. Almost weekly DHL fastest pit stops. You've got brilliant strategists. You've got Hannah Schmitz there as well. And then you've got Adrian Newey probably working on next year's car to make it absolutely outstanding. I'll be interested to see what these flexi-wing rules happen in Singapore.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen too much. I don't
think it's going to affect anything.
No. The biggest sufferers of that are going to be McLaren and Alpine, because their rear wings shake like Nicki Minaj does on a stage.
Well, Alpine shakes literally going on in a slow corner, so God knows what it's going to do to them. But I think the thing with Max is, a lot of people don't like him, and for understandable reasons, because Max just says whatever he fancies saying when he's talking, which again is some of the reasons why he gets a lot of hate.
He's very abrasive.
Yeah, he's very abrasive in the comments he makes, and I sometimes don't know if that's like maybe he means it in that way, but maybe it's just the way he is. He just says it like that. It might be more of a country thing where he's like, "Oh, this is how I speak all the time," so it's fine. But like, it's just one of those things where yes, people don't like him, but I think you can't not sit there as a fan of Formula One and a fan of people doing well. That Max is at a point now where he can literally go on and probably win the rest of the race of the season, which I think we calculated he can beat Seb's win record if he went to Abu Dhabi and won it, and he'd have more wins than Seb by the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, realistically, the way it's looking as well, he's going to tie Michael with the most podiums in the season, percentage-wise. He would be 100%. He's on 100% at the minute. Only Michael has ever got 100%. I mean, you've got the most wins in a season, I believe, was Mansell as well.
That's
Max. That's Max, isn't it?
Max has already beaten it.
I think there's a record Mansell has where it's the most pole positions turned to wins in a season.
Yeah, I don't think Max has that yet because he didn't get pole in Hungary.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the most poles in a row at season. Like Max is clearly beatable on some days because Lewis got that pole in Hungary, and then Checo beat him in a few races this season. But when Max decides to actually turn it on and win, you can't stop him.
Yeah, it's
like Lewis's pole turned to nothing in a space of a corner because Max just made a better start and went up the inside of him.
He's just got an aura of invincibility about him. He's absolutely terrifying. I mean, we mentioned before in a conversation about what Fernando said at Zandvoort, where he wanted to take a dive down the inside, but jokingly said, "I wouldn't be allowed to leave the track if I did overtake him." But it's that sort of mentality that he's able to garner in a driver like Fernando Alonso, even to jokingly remark about it. Fernando knows how big it is. Fernando knows the talent and the pressure Max has to be able to put onto other drivers, and just being able to acknowledge it and joke about it says enough that for a driver like Fernando's psychology and thought process behind it, to at least be self-conscious and aware of it, does show that Max even has the effect on the stronger drivers on the grid mentally.
Yeah,
such as, Fernando. I mean, Schumacher, another great example. Button as well, a great example. All of them have their own little games they play. Jensen Button, described as a gentleman of the grid. He absolutely wasn't. He was a little shit during his time in F1. So was Michael. So was Alonso. So was Senna. So was Rosberg. All of
Rosberg, one
them.
of the he's a
Yeah.
guilty as charged.
And
That man.
Max just seems to have this little aura of invincibility about him. He's so blissfully arrogant, and he doesn't necessarily mean to come across that way. It's just how he handles the situation. He doesn't want
Yeah.
to be out there considered, one of the greatest of all times. He's just happy to say, yeah, I'm quick. And it comes off as, like, blatant arrogance and, some dickish sort of persona. But he's
But
not
you need
wrong.
that.
He's not
But
wrong.
yeah,
He's
he's
got
not
the
wrong, is he?
confidence there for a reason, and that's because he's been nurtured by the likes of Yoss. He's been nurtured by that Red Bull family since he was a small boy. I mean, he's no longer just a human. He's an animal. He's a racing driver. He's literally a lion.
He is. He's literally the line. And I think genuinely, the only time I think I've seen Max feel the little bit of pressure was at Zandvoort last weekend. Because I think, like, the fact that he could go for 9 in a row, it was at his home track. Everyone in that stadium track or whatever wanted him to win that race. There was no one else supporting anyone else that weekend.
No.
So I think as the most pressure I've ever seen is on that moment, but like when he took the lead, when he lost the lead to Perez when he pitted early, he just kept driving. He just kept driving like normal. And even when the rain came down at the end, he was still calm and chill about it. And when you've got Fernando Alonso, who is maybe a 2-time world champion, arguably should be a more-time world champion, but he is such a devil behind you, and Max would have known exactly what he needed to do to hold him back. And again, people say it's the car. Of course, the car helps. But you put anyone else in that car, and they don't do what Max has done.
They don't get 9 in a row.
No.
I don't care. You could give it a Lewis, give it a Fernando, give it a Charles, George, Lando.
They'll win a few. Yeah,
absolutely.
They'll definitely win a few.
Absolutely.
But they won't win. You won't win 9 in a row because there's only 2. Well, it's 3, is it now? It's because Seb did it. Was it a Scar? Was it who else did it? Someone else did it. Not 9, but they did.
Ascari got 7.
Sky got 7, Seb got 9, and now Max has 9. We're not going to see this for another possibly 10 years, maybe more, of people winning a row. Especially if Max goes on to win every race this season.
Yeah.
No one will ever do that.
We're not just talking about Seb's record of 9 being matched or broken. We could very well be talking about Max pushing for maybe 15. And that's ignoring if the Red Bull car's quick at the start of next year as well.
Yeah.
If Max is able to finish off the season and make Red Bull the only constructor to win every single race in a season, like, it's insane. Not only do they have to have a competitive car, it's got to be reliable, they've got to have a consistent driver, and they need a bit of luck as well. And so far, in the season, everything's gone relatively speaking, Red Bull's way.
Like, yeah, the times that it hasn't gone their way, arguably, is Max having a grid penalty in Belgium for an engine change.
Which was a tactical one.
Yeah, which is a tactical one, and he still won the race by 30 seconds.
Yep.
Arguably the rain that came down in Zandvoort changed their perspective of the race, but he still went on to win that one. And I can't really remember any other races this year that have had major problems for. The only reason they're not going to win the most races in a season is because Imola didn't happen. because Imola was cancelled, they're not going to win the most races in a Formula 1 season because there's not the most races in a Formula 1 season we've had. So it's just one of those things where I think at the end of the season, of course, there's people angry that, people say, oh, it's ruining the sport and blah, 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 blah. But Seb won 9 in a row. Is the sport still here today? Yes, it is. Domination does end. Max won't win everything until he retires.
We hope.
It's not going to happen. We hope. But I can wholeheartedly say that car will get slower. Max won't get any slower. But it will be at a point where other people can challenge him for that title again. And I think there's this weird thing that people say Max can't go wheel to wheel with people because every time he does, it ends in an incident.
Hold the phone, Alex. Hang on.
You're
fanboy show.
No, I'm not fanboying. I'm not fanboying.
Okay.
Max does crash into people. He does. He's not the only driver in Formula 1 to ever do it, but he does crash into people. But when he does wheel-to-wheel race people, remember the battle with Charles in Bahrain at the start of 2022? That was a great fight between two drivers, two really good drivers. And yeah, some battles in 2021 when he was battling Lewis, both ended in
Maybe,
Lewis's race ending and Max's race ending. But before that, do you remember all the run with Silverstone? Like that first section of Silverstone, they were properly battling wheel to wheel, no crashes at all there until they hit.
yeah,
What is it?
when Charles got pushed off twice, and then got pushed off in Austria the race earlier.
Yeah,
I remember Max pushing him off track a lot, and I feel like Max has got one of those driving styles very similar to what we saw Lewis have when he was younger.
exactly.
But
It's either you move out the way or we're
or
going
I'll
to crash
crash,
into each
yeah,
other,
and
which is technically by the law of the land allowed.
yeah, it shouldn't be because
It
it doesn't
shouldn't
make
be.
for good racing
No,
in the slightest.
it shouldn't be. But that's how the rules are written. So Max is just taking advantage. Fernando did it as well. Fernando does it all the time. So Max isn't the only person that does it.
Yeah, but I feel like with that, Lewis had to have that moment at McLaren after the car wasn't competitive anymore, where he was forced back to the midfield and had to learn,
Yeah.
and he had to adapt to being able to drive with the likes of, creative drivers for overtakes such as Pastor Maldonado.
At Maldonado. Yeah.
And, I feel like he had to really adjust the way he was driving depending on
Yeah.
the results. And the only thing I could say for Max is he's never really had that. He drove gung ho when the Red Bull wasn't the fastest car,
Yeah.
and he got told off and the media slammed him. And then he behaved for the rest of the season. And then he didn't really have anyone to race for the start of the next season. And then halfway through that season, he had a couple more mistakes. But then he went, well, I've gone a whole year without it. I'm fine. And then Daniel left. He didn't have a teammate to race. That car wasn't really respectfully anywhere. And he still managed to find himself in battles with the likes of Seb, Lewis.
Yeah,
and having,
he won races that season as well.
Yeah, the occasional wheel bang or the occasional Jimmy Broadbent Punterino. He's not been shy of that, and that's before we even come on to 2021, where whatever happened that season.
I'm not saying he's a saint.
No,
I'm just saying that I think he gets unfair rap because he does it more now than other people do. I feel like people forget that Lewis was young as well, and he's done that same stuff as well. But like Lewis has never been the perfect wheel-to-wheel racer.
Yeah, difference is though, Max isn't British, and you can joke about British bias as much as you want, but when Lewis was doing these moves, the internet wasn't necessarily a huge thing. You couldn't go on Twitter and read other people's opinions. When the BBC came across him, and Lewis Hamilton's made a stellar move for P1, and he's absolutely just chucked it down the inside of Massa, and Massa's had to go off the track by about 20 metres to avoid him. Very similar to what Lewis did to Max in Brazil. It wasn't showing up anything, but now everyone's got a different perspective of it. We can go to Ziggo Sport and see the Dutch bias. We can go back to Sky Sport and look at Crofty hailing Hamilton as an 8-time world champion accidentally. Like, it's out there and it's ridiculous, and it'll all come down to a person's opinion. I don't think Max can race properly wheel to wheel and keep it fair enough on the circuit. He's had great times and he's had great battles, but I feel like there's a certain point where Max just gets maybe not angry. I feel like he just gets lazy. I feel like he doesn't fully comprehend it or commit to it, and it's not a slate on Max. It's just that's the way I see it.
It's out of all of his points that he has, weakness-wise, it probably is.
Yeah.
Because
But
I feel like, as you said, he's not really had he's had slow cars, but he drives them like they're fast. That's the issue. That he drives them like there's not a problem with them. And like it went in 2018 when he had the collision with Seb in China, like he just tried to follow Daniel through and just slung it down the inside. He was never going to make that move stick.
It's I don't know whether it's mental fatigue at that point, but
I think so,
Max isn't the only driver. Like we've seen us improved now. We've seen us improved drastically throughout the course of his season. He's already going for 10 wins in a row. That shows his mental fatigue is perfectly fine. He's not fatigued in the slightest, and he's ready to go for 10, which is a remarkable feat. But he's not the only driver who suffered with it. We're seeing Russell suffer with it now after being Hamilton's chew toy, let's say, for the first half of the season. He's been absolutely smashed by Hamilton. Russell struggling. We saw Sainz struggle with it last season. We see Leclerc still struggle with it every now and then, making unnecessary mistakes here and there. And it's nothing to slate the drivers on. Sometimes it's just the limit of the drivers because they're constantly pushing. They don't have enough brakes anymore in the season. But it seems like Max has somehow found this window where he's able to race to a point where he's able to mentally check out and recover himself. So later on in the race, after pit stops, like you mentioned in Zandvoort, he's able to just come back and do Max Verstappen things and drive the wheels off anything he's putting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think sometimes people forget.
Yes.
I think they really are recency biased for the win nowadays, and people just jump on trains of certain, you know, Twitter outfits and whatever. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. We're here to talk about the fact that Max could make history this weekend, and unfortunately for a lot of people, that will be sad. But I think it's going to be written into the history books, and no one's going to be able to ever. It's already written in history books that he's won 9 in a row, and even if by the end of Monza it doesn't come away with 10, like no one's going to say, "Oh, Max, you bottled it, mate. You didn't get 10 in a row," are they? They're not going to do that because they didn't tell Seb that he bottled it when he didn't put it on pole in 2014 Australia with that dog of a car. I think it'll be disappointing because clearly that car is fast, but I don't see any other outcome of we end the Italian Grand Prix with Max Verstappen as a 10-time race winner in a row and a step closer to a 3-time world champion because he can win it in Singapore.
Yeah. It's such a tough one to be able to sit here and swallow and say that we're watching what's arguably the greatest form any F1 driver's ever been in. But as a Michael fan, he has a brilliant quote, and I'm sure everyone's aware of it, of records are there to be broken. Lewis tied Michael's record, and Max is going to break Seb's record in the nicest way. It's just another border being put up, and it's another shift of the timeline. It is. It's the likes of Sebastian, Lewis. Their times are coming to an end, whether you want to admit it or not. It happens to all the greats. And I feel like we should just be grateful that we've got a talented driver such as Max, the likes of Lando, Charles, George, even Alex. All of them are there, ready to hold up the sport and be able to push it along. And when Max puts in performances like this, absolutely, and Nicky.
Yeah, he'll be back one day. He's on a sabbatical right now.
He's the Mika of this generation.
He's the Mika of... Yes.
It's just nice to know that we've got this safeguard of drivers who are able to prove themselves up against what's arguably one of the greatest rivalries, the sports scene in a long time between Seb and Hamilton. Yeah. And being able to really push it and make a name for themselves off of being able to compete with them. So in a roundabout way, it's nice to see the records broken and changed, because they're not going to last forever, and it's just a pleasure to be here and being able to acknowledge it happening as we speak, let's say.
Yes, exactly. But I think we'll end it on that, because that's a very nice monologue. That was very nice from a Ferrari fan. What can you say?
It's fine. I'll say yippee-ki-yay when Charles Leclerc and Sainz get a 1-2 tomorrow at Monza.
Well, should we? I don't know. Should we? Well, first of all, obviously we'll say that. Obviously, make sure you guys subscribe.
Yes,
down below.
Absolutely.
Ding the bell so you don't miss uploads. This when you're seeing this, qualifying probably has already happened. Or
if not, it's happening right now.
Yeah, it's not happening right now. So, Max, congratulations on your pole. And then, hang on. Max, unfortunately, you can get pole, mate. Congratulations, Alex Albon, for putting it on pole.
Good job.
So there you go. So there you go. We've got two different versions. It's one. It has to be one or the other. But no, we'll be getting more videos throughout this week on the Monza weekend.
Yeah.
We'll have our reactions to the Grand Prix that will come out, I imagine, Monday.
Monday, probably.
Monday. Do we want to do a reaction to quali? Is that what? Should we do that?
Maybe.
We'll do that. Maybe.
We'll keep you guys in a little bit of suspense.
Yeah, maybe.
Trickle a little bit of suspense, maybe.
That's something I've just thrown in the mix, but that just means we have to do it now because I've said it.
Shame.
Shame. But
no.
yeah, so you'll see this tomorrow. You'll see this when we're doing this. We're doing it a day before you guys see it. The magic.
I'm not sure your days are adding up, mate.
No, because if we're doing it now, and then tomorrow when they see it, it'll be the day after we've recorded it. Ding the bell!
Ding the bell! Press
the
subscribe,
bell.
so whenever this does go live, you'll be able to watch it and get notified. But that does round up the fact that Max Verstappen is having a hot girl summer, and it's only 10's for him. It'll be very interesting to see if he's able to score another 10 in the bag. But until then, we'll find out tomorrow for the Monza Grand Prix. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I've been Josh. That's been Alex. Until next time. See ya.
See you guys.
I can't believe I just said that.